Welcome back to the Wildlife Garden Project. This is Michael Walker from the Nottinghamshire Bat Group, and today we're going to be telling you a little bit about the things that you can do in your garden to help bats. Now Michael, what sort of bats can people expect to see in their gardens?
Well, it very much depends where they live. If they live in a rural location, more chance of seeing more species, but even in urban gardens you're likely to see bats, and it's most likely to be one of the pipistrelle species. And they're quite easy to identify and tell if they are pipistrelles because of the way they fly. They've got this very characteristic, constantly changing direction flight, which identifies them as pipistrelles.
So do we need to be worried about bats? Are they in decline in the UK?
Bats have declined a great deal since sort of the mid-20th century. In the 1970s, 80s, it was shown that even a species that was regarded as quite common, the common pipistrelle, had declined by up to 70%. And laws were put in place to give bats greater protection, and since then numbers have increased, but there are still nowhere near as many bats as there used to be.
So what sort of things can we be doing in our garden to help bats?
We can be planting things that bring insects into the garden, because that's what we're gardening for, to get as many different types of insect in the garden as possible for bats to eat. If we can get as many insects into the garden by planting a range of species of plant to bring different types of insects in. Things that flower at night, that emit a lot of scent at night, that bring in different species of insect, particularly things like moths, are really, really good.
So what sort of plants would you recommend that do attract these sort of night-flying insects?
Things like honeysuckle, which has got a nice scent, and moths brought in by that. Evening primrose is a really good plant because, again, it's got a very strong scent, and that scent is more obvious in the evening.
So things that smell nice to us smell nice to the moths and the other
A lot of the
insects
time,
so.
yeah. The single most important thing you can have in a garden for bats would be a pond. A lot of the insects that bats eat have an aquatic life stage. They'll spend time as larvae in the pond, and they emerge just at the time of day when bats are out hunting. So at dusk you'll often get lots of things coming out of a pond that are food for bats.
What about people who haven't got a pond, or they can't have one because they haven't got enough room, or they're renting? Is there any alternatives to a pond that will do almost the same job?
Well, you can create sort of boggy sort of areas by just reducing the drainage in your garden, just by lining it with plastic or something and planting things into that and then covering it over. That'll retain moisture and give a different sort of environment. A very small sort of tub sort of pond, or even some water features, can be really important, because things like mosquitoes and things like that will still breed in those, so there will still be insects coming off them at night. So yeah, really good, and there's no excuse for not having water in the garden.
So that covers what bats eat. What about where they live?
Oh well, bats generally, if it's in a sort of an urban, suburban, or even a village environment, are generally living with us in our houses. Could be in the roof, it could be on an exterior feature like weatherboarding or hanging tiles, something like that. And they'll use roofs and those sort of features in the summer because it's nice and warm. In the winter, we don't know where a lot of bats go in the winter. They might be in the cavity of a house looking for somewhere nice and cold. It needs somewhere cool in the winter and warm in the summer, so the baby bats can grow quickly.
If people haven't got bats roosting in their houses, are there other ways that they can provide a home for them?
You could provide a bat box, which is very similar to a bird box that you put in gardens for blue tits and things. There are boxes you can buy, all sorts of shapes and sizes of bat box, or they're quite easy to make yourself out of just scrap bits of wood.
And what do people need to think about when they're positioning a bat box?
It needs to be on an aspect where it's going to get some sun, probably not full sun at the heat of the day, but sort of southeast, southwest is always a good idea. Either of those sort of aspects, then it'll get enough heat to be suitable for bats to use in the summer, and perhaps even raise young in there. or you could even consider getting a hibernation bat box, or make a hibernation bat box, which is a lot thicker walls and keeps the more insulation, and you'd face those north because you don't want the sun on those, because you don't want it to get too warm.
Are there any other measures people can take to help bats?
We can help by gardening in a more organic sort of method way. Don't use pesticides that's going to kill insects, because that's not good for bats that eat insects.
Which is good advice anyway, generally.
Very good advice generally. You can keep hedgerows, not be too keen to keep hedgerows all nice and crisply cut. Let them grow a little bit. Again, that helps more insects come off them, and bats will hunt along hedge lines, and they like hunting along hedge lines, so that would be good as well. Bats will forage over a large area. It won't be just your garden that's keeping a population of bats alive. If you can imagine 100 bats in a roof space, I've got a lot of food to eat. It's estimated that a pipistrelle bat can eat perhaps 3,000 tiny little insects in a night.
Really?
So that's not all going to come out of one garden. So it's important that it's done over a wider area, a whole neighbourhood perhaps, doing similar kind of things.
So it is really important then. So if you can take these few small measures in your garden and encourage your neighbours to do the same, you really could be helping the declining bat population.